Hey guys, I wanted to share with you a little bit more information about my birth experience. If you have watched my other videos, you know that I uploaded a video about the whole labor and birth process, but I didn't really talk much about the C-section that I had. So today I want to tell you what I experienced and some things that I wasn't expecting at all, which were a lot of things, and overall just how my C-section was quite a bit different than I ever really thought it would be. Let me just start out by saying that I did not have a scheduled C-section. I was in labor for 38 hours after my water broke, and I just wasn't progressing, and the baby was showing signs of being under stress, and he had his first stool in utero, otherwise known as he passed meconium, and his heart rate was dropping. So after 38 hours of having my water broken, I said enough is enough. I'm scared for the baby. Like, I just want to have him. I'm only 5 centimeters dilated after all this time. Let's just get this done. However, I was not one of those moms who going into the whole labor thing was hell-bent against having a C-section. I was okay with it if I needed to. I know some people are like super opposed to it, like want to do anything to avoid having a C-section, but that wasn't me. I was like, if I can have them naturally, fine. If I can't, I'm okay with a C-section. The reason I think I was so okay with it is because it was always made to sound like it wasn't so bad as far as anything I had ever heard about it before. And I knew a few people who I'm very close with who's had C-sections. 2 of my very good friends and my mother. My mom had all 4 of her kids via C-section, and never did I ever hear out of them about their experience like anything that I had. It was totally different. I don't know if they left some parts out to not scare me or it just was really different for them, but I had never ever heard anything like what I went through. So that's why I wanted to share this with you to see if anybody else out there can relate to what I went through, or if maybe, I was just kind of a weird kind of person or whatever. So let's begin. The first thing that I was not expecting is how long it took to prep, to get me prepped and get the OR prepped for the procedure. And I was thinking about it as I was in there, and they're, hooking things up and setting up the sheet and doing all kinds of things. I'm thinking to myself, thank God this isn't an emergency C-section, because I really don't understand how those work, because they were hurrying up. Like, they had to go fast because there was somebody waiting to go in after us. And so they were moving, like they were trying to make this happen as quickly as possible. And it still took a good half an hour before they even started. And I just was not prepared for just waiting there on the table for as long as I did. And they don't bring your husband in right away, which I knew that, but it just felt like the longest wait of all time, just waiting for Robert to be able to come in with me. And like the second he did, I was just like, I've never been happier to see him in my life. I mean, let's be honest, like, getting operated on is a little bit scary, but being totally awake for it is like, a whole different ballgame. And I wasn't really scared for surgery because I've had several surgeries, but I was asleep during them. So I didn't really stop to think about how it would be to be getting prepped for surgery for so long, with everybody poking and prodding, and this is happening and that's happening, and you're just like wide awake, like, waiting to see what happens next. It was actually really, really nerve-wracking. So when Robert came in, I just grabbed onto his hand, and I just, I was just really, really happy he was there. But before that even happens, you have to get an epidural, which I had gotten an epidural for labor pains hours before. That is one thing I definitely was not looking forward to. I didn't realize that the painful part is actually the numbing medication going in. I thought it was the actual, procedure that hurt, but getting shots of the numbing agent in your spinal column, that didn't feel good, okay? And by that time I had been in labor for a really long time. I was totally exhausted, so I'm not gonna lie, I cried. I cried like a little baby, and I got a shot, the first shot in, and I just like let loose. And the anesthesiologist goes, "Oh boy, if you don't like that one, you're not gonna like this one." I'm like, great. And yeah, I didn't like that one either. But luckily it doesn't take very long for the numbing to start, and then there were no more contraction pains, and it was great, so it's worth it. But I mean, you know, you don't have a choice. You have to get it if you have a C-section anyway. But yes, just the epidural, not fun times. So they're about to start the procedure and I'm not feeling numb enough. And I don't know what I was supposed to be feeling like. I knew I couldn't move my legs, but they were like touching my stomach to, you know, make sure I couldn't feel stuff, but like I could still feel things. And they're like, oh no, that's okay if you feel this, but like, can you feel this or can you feel that? I'm like, yes, no, I don't know. But it was just bizarre that I did not feel like I was numb enough, but they assured me that I was. I'm like, okay. So then they start the procedure. No, I did not feel, you know, any kind of incision being made, so they were right about that. But once they start getting, you know, deeper into my abdomen, I start feeling, you know, crazy things. And I think most people, when they hear about what a C-section is like, it's like it's described as, it's not pain, it doesn't hurt, it's just pressure. That's the word that always goes along with C-section, is pressure, it's pressure, it's pressure. So going into it, I'm thinking, okay, it's not gonna hurt. I'm just gonna feel, you know, a little bit of like maybe discomfort at the most. I kind of thought maybe it's like how it feels when you get a filling or any kind of work done in your mouth and you have Novocaine. So you can't, it's not, you know, there's nothing on your nerve endings. You're not getting pain sensations, but there's, you know, tugging and you know that something is going on in there. That's what I thought it would feel like. Well, it started to be a lot more than just pressure. It was like insane amounts of pressure, to put it lightly. And it was so much pressure that it actually like was painful. It did hurt. I was holding on to Robert's hand and I was just squeezing it. And then, you know, the more, you know, worse and worse it gets, the more I'm just like, ow, 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 ow. And, you know, that went on for a little bit. And there was just so much like ripping and tearing and tugging, and it just felt like I was being like torn open. And so the doctor is finally like, well, what are you feeling? Like, what does it feel like? You can tell that that was not like a usual thing that happens. So he's like, what kind of pain is it? Is it sharp pain? Is it this kind of pain? I'm like, no, it's not a sharp pain. He's like, well, what does it feel like? And I said, it feels like you're taking my cervix and trying to rip it up over my head. And I mean, that's the best way I could describe it, because that's exactly what it felt like. It just felt like I was in like, and it was disturbing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was extremely, extremely uncomfortable. And so I didn't know this, but Robert was like looking over at the anesthesiologist, who was on this side of me, kind of behind me, and Robert was right here, and he's looking, gesturing over to him like, can we up the medication? Can we like do something about this? So I think he did, but honestly, like, it didn't really help too much, because it just was, yeah, it was a lot. It felt very, 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 yeah, a lot worse. I'll just be honest, a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. So then the anesthesiologist, after a little while, says, oh, the baby's coming, the baby's gonna come, he's gonna be here any second. And the really cool thing to me, the best part about having the C-section, was those moments of anticipation when you knew that at any second you were gonna hear your baby crying for the first time, and you could just sit there and lay there and kind of just enjoy the moment with your partner. Because at that point, the worst of it was over. It wasn't so bad at that point. I kind of was just sitting there waiting. And, you know, if you have a vaginal birth, you're obviously doing work during that time. You know, you're trying to push the baby out. But when you're just passively laying there, you get to enjoy those moments of, oh my gosh, like any second, you know? And so we heard the first cry, and then I just looked over at Robert, and we just kind of like, you know, locked eyes, and he could see the baby before I could because he was up higher. But it was just so nice just to be able to just have like a relaxing few moments waiting to hear our baby cry and waiting to see him for the first time. And so that was awesome. And hearing the cry was just so, so wonderful. And let me say that I did have a bigger baby. He was 9 pounds, 4 ounces, 22 inches long. And I'm a smaller girl. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I had a big baby come out of there. So maybe that's why it was really bad. I don't know. So then it comes time to get stitched back up. This part also did not feel good. It was bad. And so the doctor, or the anesthesiologist, told me that he had some kind of medicine he could give me to help with the pain, but it was going to make me sleepy. And I thought, I've been awake for 2 days straight. How much more tired could I possibly be? I'm in like a lot of pain. At this point, like, just do anything to make it go away. That's fine. I'll be sleepy. I'm already sleepy as it is. Well, that turned out to be a bad decision that I really regret, because it didn't really help with the pain that much, and it made me tired. Saying it made me tired was an understatement. It made it almost physically impossible for me to stay awake. And I've had, operations where I've come out from anesthesia and it still was not that painful to stay awake. Like, I needed like toothpicks to keep my eyelids open. It was actually painful to try to stay awake on this medicine. I don't know what it's called. So if they ask you if you want a medication but tell you it's gonna make you sleepy, just say no, okay? Because trying to stay awake when you just have this brand new baby that you're trying to cuddle and get to know, and then your family come visiting you, like, it is not gonna be good. I was in the recovery room trying to do skin to skin, and it was so hard for me to just even keep my eyes open. And then as I'm starting to fall asleep, I felt like the baby was gonna keep rolling off of me. But then, like, the nurse was like, you have to do skin to skin. And I'm like, I think my kid's gonna like end up on the floor right now. Like, I cannot stay awake. And we had some complications with him and he ended up going to the NICU. But then I had my family come in and visit me, and I really wanted to like talk to them and tell them how it went and be like, thanks for coming, and tell them what was going on with the baby. But literally, I just wanted to just be comatose. Like, I couldn't even, I've never ever had to like fight to stay awake like that before in my life. So I severely regret having that medication. So my advice, if they offer that to you, if it's really painful, just say no. Now, believe it or not, the easiest part of my C-section was the recovery. I know that this is a big fear of most people. The recovery is worse than a vaginal delivery, but in my case, the recovery was so easy. Literally the easiest part of the whole thing. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Did it hurt to cough or sneeze or move for a few days? Yes, it did. But after like 3 days, it was very, very, very manageable. And I never even ended up taking any medication stronger than a Motrin. They gave me Percocet to go home with, and I never even took it because I was fine. Like I said, it was uncomfortable, but I didn't need it. It wasn't that bad. It was like I had gone through way worse than that. So at that point, I'm like, this is nothing. But yeah, I got the kind of, it's not even stitches. I got glue, so I never even had to have stitches taken out. And like I said, you can't really move too well. Don't even think about coughing. But after 3 days, I had to go visit my son in the NICU, and I was walking there. I probably shouldn't have been walking. I should have been in a wheelchair, but I was physically able to walk. So the recovery, I feel like, a lot of people think it's so bad, but I mean, I can't imagine a vaginal delivery being so much better than that, because it wasn't bad. So I don't know. It might be comparable depending on what happens to you and, how you handle it. Something I was not expecting, though, is that I really dislike my scar. And I didn't think it would bother me because, like I've said, I've had surgeries, I have scars, like everybody has scars on them. You can't even see it even in a bathing suit. They put it down so low. So I didn't think it would bother me at all, but like it kind of does. And maybe I'm just still getting used to it. It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 months. My son is 9 weeks old now. And it's very visible. I mean, it's a very, very dark scar. I'm sure it'll fade a little bit, but I mean, it just, honestly, it kind of feels like I got a tattoo when I was drunk and it sounded good at the time, and now I'm just like, ooh, I don't want this tattoo on my body anymore. Like, that's kind of what it feels like. I'm like, I thought I was gonna be okay with this, but like now I kind of don't want to be scarred. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm a little bit maimed, but whatever, that's what happens when you give birth. Your things are never going to be completely the same. It's part of having kids and being a mom, and it was all worth it. And when I was in the hospital recovering, I thought, I am never going to do this again. But I mean, of course, we all do it again, most of us at least, and you forget about it, so they say. I'm still waiting on that. It's still a little bit fresh in my mind, but hopefully by the time I have a second kid, I'm just like, oh, that was nothing, I can handle it. Kind of like how it was when I had IVF, and going through the whole process, I'm like, I'm never doing this again, and now I'm like, that wasn't so bad. I'll do that again right now, let's go. So thank you for watching. Hopefully if you haven't had a C-section but know you need to, or you know, think it might be a possibility, hopefully I didn't scare you too much, but I just feel like it was helpful to be a little bit more realistic and maybe enlighten somebody the way I kind of wish I had been enlightened, because I went into it having, you know, no worries about it at all, and it was just not what I expected. So anyways, thank you again for watching, and talk to you soon.